Okay, y'all, we're going to do a little reading. Got the glare from the light. I'm up at Marianne and Randy's. Cleaned up the toys after Little went to bed. There she is. Sleeping away. Precious. So we're going to read a little bit. And before I do that, I opened up the book and saw the pictures. Thought, I need to show y'all some pictures. Because we've gone way past where we are in some pictures. So this is Lucy DeBarbin at age 8. There she is. Lucy. Little French girl. She's beautiful. And here she is at 11. This was at age 11, 1947, shortly before her grandmother arranged the marriage. Lucy had never even had a boyfriend. She's really pretty. She's got a beautiful smile. And over here is Mr. Elvis, Mr. Presley. The dreams of Lucy's ambitious young lover began to take shape, meaning Elvis's dreams. He's seen here with Memphis disc jockey Charlie Walker, one of the first to play his recordings. He definitely needs to be a radio man. But look at Elvis, dressed so nicely. He always dressed nice. He was bullied in school because he would wear, in high school. When he was a young kid, they were really, really poor, which they were poor when he was in high school. But when he was really, he would wear, oh, hold on, TV's doing something. Sorry, the TV came to life, started making noise. But he used to wear overalls and jeans all the time, and he even said at one point when he was older that he would never wear jeans again. But in high school, when he started having dreams of being a performer, he would always wear, to school, he would wear black pants with a pink stripe down the side and a bolero jacket. And he grew his hair a little longer. I mean, it's not long, but it's not as short as that. But he said he started growing sideburns as soon as he was old enough to grow them because he always admired the truck drivers. When he was younger, he would lay in the grass near the ditch and watch them drive by, and he always wanted to be a truck driver. Such a boy. Here he is at the Louisiana Hayride. It says a young, smartly dressed Elvis in an early performance. And remember I told you he was wearing the black shoes with the white tops? Those are the shoes he always wore. It's the only pair he had. A lot of times he wear a coat and a tie. I can't tell if he's wearing a tie in this one, but there he is. He had this cover thing on his, a cover that he would put over his guitar, which I have seen. They have that at the Sun Studio place in Memphis if you go tour it. All right, here is another picture at the Louisiana Hayride. And look, wearing a coat and tie. Or a coat. Another night. There's his guitarist, Scotty Moore. And I'm not sure who that is. Maybe DJ Fontana. He was the drummer. The Louisiana Hayride in Shreveport. Elvis got his big break at the Country Music Showcase in late 1954. And here he is with the Colonel. Elvis and the Colonel. Elvis was initially excited about his new high-powered manager who thought big and promised to make him a movie star. Frontier, New Frontier. This is probably taken in Las Vegas. He went to Las Vegas to perform at the end of, actually I'm trying to think when he went to Las Vegas. Yeah, I thought he went with Sun Studio. I can't remember now. But anyway, there's that. And let's see what's here. With his beloved parents, Vernon and Gladys. She was sickly at this time, even though she looks happy. She started getting, she had a liver problems. So her liver's not cleaning her blood the way it should, and she'd get these dark circles under her eyes, and she put on a lot of weight. And this is Lucy celebrating Denise's second birthday in July 1956 with daughters Melody looking up, who was 5, Deborah was 7, and Lucy was 19 years old. We were children together. Melody, Denise. That's Denise and Melody and Deborah. She's 19. But she'd already been with Elvis for 3 years. This was on the Steve Allen Show. If you watch the video, this is when he had to sing to the dog. Elvis was embarrassed by the silly skits, especially having to sing his hit Hound Dog to a Hound Dog. But as always, he did as he was told. He was very professional. In his second movie, Loving You, which we just read about, released in early 1957, he dedicated the title song to Lucy. So he's starting to, his looks are improving. Turning into a swan. All right, that's all we're going to look at right now in pictures. We got a lot to read, and we're already 7 minutes in. All right, I might break it up because it's about 20 pages. All right, we're at the fall of 1957. So last we read was she had gotten a promotion and was starting to go up to New York to sell makeup and stuff. So anyway, and he talked about Loving You, which came out, we just read, in early 57. So now we're at the fall of 57. So the man's been busy. He has been touring, making movies. He's making more movies right now than touring. In late 56, he did, what was that movie he made? 1956. His first movie, oh my God. I can't think of the name of it. Love Me Tender. In late 56. Then early 57, he made Loving You. And like in April, May of 57, he did Jailhouse Rock. Jailhouse Rock, they were filming that when they were doing all of the updates to Graceland. He bought Graceland in March of 57, and he got an interior decorator to do some updates and stuff, and so they did that for a couple of months. His parents still lived at Audubon while they were doing all the updates, and Elvis went out to California to make Jailhouse Rock. So he comes back home, and now it's fall of 57. Okay. Elvis went on a concert tour in September that include performances in Canada and Hawaii. I followed it in the newspapers. He was drawing large crowds and attracting lots of attention. When the tour ended, things slowed down a hair. He called and said he would come see me soon. I didn't get my hopes up. He was the hottest entertainer in America, maybe even the hottest of all time. In October, his third movie, Jailhouse Rock, came out, and the title song was number 1. His fame kept growing and growing. How could he spare the time to spend a few moments with me? I've heard lots of interviews of him, or not lots, but when he went up to Canada, there's some interviews, and I've seen quite a few pictures of them goofing off behind the stage while he was waiting to go on. And then after that, he goes to Hawaii and does a benefit concert. I think that's when he does a benefit concert for the Arizona. But he had filmed Jailhouse Rock in like April, May, maybe June. And then in, like she said here, September, he had the tour of Canada and then Hawaii. He called in late November and said he was back in Memphis. He asked me to come and made all the arrangements. I flew in the next day and took a cab to a hotel near the airport. Elvis had the room registered under Lucy Barbin. I washed my face, reapplied some light makeup, and tussled with my hair. That was a problem, and I was extremely apprehensive. Someone had talked me into going to a beauty salon in Monroe, and the beautician cut my hair to my shoulder and lightened it. I cried. Elvis loved my hair long and black. He told me never to cut it. I was worried that he was going to be mad. To distract him, I put on my sexiest dress. It was a one-piece, form-fitting, gray and gold knit with a gray leather belt that made my waist look tiny and my bust impressive. Maybe he wouldn't notice my hair. There were other things troubling me. We were growing up. I had just turned 21. Elvis would be 23 in January. Had we outgrown our teenage love? Then there was Elvis's fame. I would be meeting a different Elvis. Instead of the unknown country boy I fell in love with, he was now a wildly adored movie star with the #1 song who wowed the nation on The Ed Sullivan Show. Had it changed him? Had it gone to his head? Would he be a stranger who was so full of himself I wouldn't know him? The qualities that made him so special, his meekness, kindness, respect for elders, deep love of family, and tender heart, are qualities that appeared most vulnerable to his fame. I'd already noticed some changes. Everything was baby this and baby that. Was that just the beginning? On top of all this, there was the question of other women. There had been so many rumors. Every week he seemed to be dating a different movie star. He said they were just for publicity, but it still made me jealous. So remember what he said, and if you listen to the song, the words of the song, if you see me with someone new, don't be blue, because my heart is, belongs to you. So you just have to remember that, because, yeah, he had a lot of girls, but it didn't mean anything to him. His heart belonged to Lucy. That's what he's saying to her. But she said, it seemed like he was always dating a different movie star. He said they were for publicity, but it still made me jealous. My heart nearly stopped when I heard the tapping at the door. I knew the pattern of his knocks. I always wondered if it was dun, 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 dun. I always wondered if it was like that, or if he had a different pattern. I took a deep breath, took one final swipe with the brush at my horrible hair, then opened the door. He stood looking at me for what must have been 20 seconds. He didn't say a word. Oh, no, he hates my hair, I thought. Slowly, he started smiling, then broke into a laugh. He dashed over, picked me up, and twirled me around. Now, I just try to imagine Elvis. The Elvis that we see is the public Elvis, but the Elvis, the man, it's just hard to put that face and his stage presence into what she says. But what he does on stage is not who he is. I mean, it's a part of him. It's the showmanship part of him. But the real Elvis is not like that. So it's just hard to picture it because we never got to see that part. So anyway, slowly he started smiling and broke into a laugh. He dashed over, picked me up, and twirled me around. How do I look? He asked. That was just like Elvis. Here I had been so worried. He was just as worried about his own appearance. He looked good. Actually, he looked magnificent. He wore a dark, open-neck shirt with mother-of-pearl buttons and a brown tweed sport coat a size too large. Some things never change. He also wore those baggy pants that were in fashion and he liked so much, but I never did. I could overlook that. His hair was tinted black, and his Hollywood haircut made it look fuller. His sideburns weren't as long as before. Other than that, he looked pretty much the same. The only signs of his new wealth were a gold chain or two around his neck and a weird-looking pinky ring. So this pinky ring, it was one of the first pieces of jewelry he ever bought, and it was in the shape of a horseshoe for good luck. The major difference was in his diction and attitude. He was starting to lose his deep South accent. I attribute it to his acting and his move to Los Angeles. Elvis adapted to his surroundings. Changing his environment had taken some of the twang out of him and put the babies in. He was also more self-assured and assertive. The doubts brought on by rejection and failure were gone. You look great, Elvis, like the big, famous movie star you are. Yeah, can you believe it? Not bad for a hick from Memphis. Are you feeling all right? I'm okay, just a bit tired. I don't have time to think. The colonel says we got to strike while the iron's hot. That's the business. We didn't talk for a long time after that. He held me tightly and kissed me on each side of the neck. I kissed his chest. The 18-month separation built our desire to a fever pitch. 18 months built their desire to a fever pitch. It was exciting to rediscover each other again. Instead of the changes pulling us apart, it was better than it had ever been. We were so intent on being together, Elvis didn't take the usual precautions. I was too enraptured by the moment to protest. We made love freely several times. Phew! Afterward, Elvis relaxed. He could be himself with me. He didn't have any image to maintain. I knew him before all that. I remember the first time I saw you, Lucy. Man, were you beautiful, standing on that stage in that torn jungle dress. Then you did that sexy dance. I love the way you dance, but I want you to dance only for me. He put his hands over my ears, just as he used to, then kissed me deeply. If I couldn't keep seeing you, I think I'd die. Even when you're not with me, I feel you with me, and that keeps me going. Why can't you come and be with me? We both knew the answer. It didn't need discussion. If I didn't have you, I'd be so frightened out there. I'd drown the earth with my tears. You're what keeps me alive, he repeated. We must never let tears be for sadness, Elvis, only for joy. Whenever I tried to talk like that, he would kiss me in mid-sentence and stifle my words. He was so playful. We sat yoga style in front of each other, and Elvis stretched his arm out to the side. When he did that, I would lightly run my fingers up and down his arm and over his hand. He loved it and said he could feel the love through my fingers. I would do that with Michael when he was little and older too. He loved to have his arm rubbed. And I actually did that with Charlotte this weekend. Asked her if she liked it, and she said she did. But she rubbed her fingers up and down his arm. Remember when I said I would cover my ear when I performed as a sign that I'm thinking of you? He said. Well, I've decided that's not good enough. From now on, I'll stretch out my arm in the air. Whenever you see that, Lucy, even if it's 100 years from now, it'll be my signal to you, to show you that I'll never forget. Remember that. You won't forget, will you? I won't forget, even if it's 100 years from now, mon amour. My ears are cold, he said. That meant he wanted me to put my hands over them. I did. Making love to Elvis was full of moments like this. He was so romantic. He never forgot anything from the past. Each little gesture carried a deep meaning. It was one of the most beautiful things about him. He also put the most important things first. Aside from my few inquiries, he hadn't said a word about his career. He didn't want that part of his life to intrude upon our special moments. I had to ask him before he talked about it. Once I let him know it was time, he talked freely. Naturally, I wanted to know more about the women. Do you ever feel like being with someone else? There could be 1,000 women around, and you would be the only one, he insisted. Always believe that, Lucy. You will forever be number one. I didn't miss the non-denial, despite how well he put it. Because she asked him, do you ever feel like being with someone else? And he didn't deny it, but he told her, there could be 1,000 women around, but you will be the only one. Would you ever let anyone destroy our love? I asked. He held my face between his hands and eased it toward his. He looked deep into my eyes. You can just imagine that. He held my face between his hands and eased it towards his, so he drew her closer to him. He looked deep into my eyes. Desiree, do you remember our vows and how special they were? That's all he needed to say. He kissed me and said, let's go hear the earth speak. That was his way of saying he wanted to go outside and feel the grass under his feet. He told me to meet him at the side of the hotel by the atrium. He had to sneak out a back way so he wouldn't attract a crowd. Outside, it was late afternoon and a bit chilly. He quickly pulled up and I jumped in his car. Elvis was car crazy and bought all sorts of fancy vehicles, but it was lost on me. I never paid any attention to his cars. This one was large and dark. He drove and talked about his new home. Remember how I always told you that one day I'd have one of those rich folks' houses we used to drive by? Well, baby, I got it. My mama really loves it. My daddy's got a big garden going out back already. I want it to be your home, too. Wherever I live will be your home. Come on, I'll show it to you. I tensed up. He read my fear. Don't worry, we won't go in. We'll just drive by. When we got there, he parked a short distance from the gate. Isn't it beautiful? It used to be a church or something. They called it Graceland. I like the name. I'm going to keep it. And look, he said, pointing to a street sign. It's on Bellevue Road, just like your middle name. When I saw that, I knew I had to buy it. And that I had to go back and look, but her maiden name is Bellevue. French. And Graceland, so the lady that owned Graceland, her name was Grace. And so they started calling the house Graceland. And Elvis liked it, so he kept it. But Grace was an older woman. She used to have a lot of music performances in her home, in the music room. Which, if you go in the front door of Graceland, that's the entryway. You look to the left, that's the dining room. If you look to the right, that's a formal living room. But off to the right of the formal living room was the music room, where he ended up keeping his grand piano. But they would have performances in the music room, and they would set chairs up in the living room and the dining room area. I don't know if that's what it was when she lived there, but she would have performances there. And as she got older, it was harder for her to get out and about. She was a strong Christian woman, so she would have church. She would bring the pastor, or the pastor would come visit, and he would have church services downstairs, which during Elvis's time of living at Graceland, the downstairs was his TV room and the pool room. So it was two large rooms. And I guess she would set it up. She probably had some couches down there or something, and had church down there. So that's what he's saying. He said, it used to be a church or something. They call it Graceland. I like the name. I'm going to keep it. And look, he said, pointing to a street sign. It's on Bellevue Road, just like your middle name. When I saw that, I knew I had to buy it. So Bellevue, it became Highway 51, and then after Elvis got famous, they named a strip of it that went in front of Graceland. They named it Elvis Presley Boulevard. But originally, it was called Bellevue Road. His voice became low and deep, as it always did when he grew serious. I know. I promised not to tell anyone about us, and I haven't. I haven't told a soul. But I want to tell my mama. I want to tell her everything. Maybe she'll know what to do. Is that okay? Fear gripped me. Elvis was close to his mother and loved her deeply. I wasn't anything close to the kind of woman she would want for him. I was in spirit and character. It was just my past, my ugly past. No one could overlook that. No, Elvis, please, not even her, not yet. You promised me. Don't break your vow. If it still means that much to you, then okay. But don't keep me to this forever. I've got to tell Mama. She wants me to find a nice girl and settle down. I'd like to tell her I have. Lucy, we should get married. We've got to get married before all this Hollywood stuff gets too crazy. My eyes filled with tears. What could I say? I couldn't marry him, not at the height of his fame. Elvis was so naive. He had no idea what this kind of scandal would do to his career. My concern was for him, but I was also afraid for myself. Could I handle the scrutiny? Hiding was my life. How could I suddenly expose myself to the world? I told him we would marry, but not for a while. I think I'm going to have to go into the Army, he said. I'd like to marry you before I go. We'll see. We'll talk about it later. He started the car, and we went driving in the hills. I thought we were going to our hill, but he found a new spot. It was a small grassy incline overlooking a river, possibly the Mississippi. It was a nice place, but it was late in the season, and that made a big difference. The trees were bare, and the river looked angry. We walked for a while, then Elvis stopped and reached into his coat pocket. I have a present for you. He pulled out a crumpled rose. It warned me to see he hadn't changed. The rose was semi-wilted, as usual, and even that was comforting. That isn't it, he said, grinning widely. I have something else. He took a small box out of his pocket and opened it. That's what pressed against me when we hugged. The box contained a tiny gold cross, real tiny. It couldn't have cost $10. You told me just to get you little things, he said, laughing. This is the littlest thing I could find. That is so cute, just so precious. The smallest thing was this teeny tiny cross. You remembered, I said, recalling when he broke my chain and caused me to lose my confirmation cross in the grass. I reached for it. He pulled it away. Elvis presented all his gifts with a speech, which is true. So that is another thing about him that she mentions here that is so true that I've read about in other books. So he pulled the box away because he had to make a speech to present his gift to her. This cross symbolizes our love crossed with God's love, he said. Until you wear my ring, wear this close to your heart. With that, he took it out of the box and put it around my neck. I love you forever, baby. You won't let me give you anything expensive, so I put all the love I could squeeze into this. It was the perfect gift. I embraced him and gave him a deep kiss. Unfortunately, Elvis didn't grasp the beauty of the moment. He pulled another box out of his pocket. Now for the real gift, he said. He opened the box and showed me a stunning bracelet covered with huge sapphires, emeralds, and diamonds. I couldn't let him give me something like that. It's beautiful, Elvis, and the thought is so nice, but I can't accept it. I've never had anything so expensive. Please do me a favor. Give it to your mother. She deserves it more than me. Someday I'll let you give me things like this, but only when we are together permanently. His face twisted up in anger. You think I can't afford it? Well, watch this. He ripped the bracelet out of the box and threw it into the river. It was the first time I had ever seen Elvis's legendary temper. "If you won't wear it, no one will," he snarled. I was shocked. It frightened me. "I'm sorry," I said. "I didn't realize how important it was to you. I've never been given anything like that before. I guess I just don't feel worthy." "If I give them to you, that means you're worthy," he growled. "What I want is you, that's all. I miss you." His anger drained as fast as it erupted. "You're some lady, Desiree," he said tenderly. "Don't ever change." He pulled me to him and kissed me. "I want you with me forever. No more being apart. As soon as this army thing is over, we'll get married. Do you still want to marry me?" "Yes, yes, mon chéri. I'll be here waiting. 2 years or 20, I'll be here. Don't ever forget." I was relieved that he wasn't pushing me to marry him before he went into the army. I still wasn't officially divorced. "I don't want to forget," he said, suddenly looking tired. "Sometimes I think the only true friends I have are you and my mama and daddy. All these people I'm meeting now, these Hollywood types, they're not my friends. It's hard to explain, but it's not the same." "Hey, what about God? You haven't forgotten him, have you? He's still your biggest friend. God is the most important one of all." He smiled a slow, weary smile. "You keep reminding me, baby. That's why I love you so much. You keep it real. No matter where I go, I feel you're with me. When I'm away, it's like I'm only half alive. You're my other half." We hugged again. "Baby, I've been worried about something. When I made love to you before—" "When we made love," I corrected. "Yeah, when we made love, and I forgot, the protection." "Don't worry," I interrupted. "Nothing's going to happen. It'll be all right." The sun set, and it became cold. We returned to the car and drove back to the hotel. He dropped me near the atrium and went around the park. Although I understood it, I was uncomfortable with all this sneaking around. It made me feel like an infidel. I went into the room and began combing my hair. He knocked, and I let him in, still holding the brush. He looked angry. "Is there something wrong?" "As a matter of fact, there is," he firmly stated. "Why did you cut your hair?" "Oh, no, the brush. Why was I holding the stupid brush?" He hadn't said a word about my hair. Now I go and practically flaunt it. I could have killed myself. "It wasn't my fault," I whimpered. "Who has control of your hair?" I stuttered out the explanation about the beauty shop. He came over and brusquely ran his hand through my hair, emphasizing how quickly it took. I remember doing that one time when Mariana got her hair cut shoulder length, and I'd run my hand through it, and it was like over with as soon as I started. So he's doing the same thing. He came over and brusquely ran his hand through my hair, emphasizing how quickly it took. "See what I mean? It's not the same," he said. "I want it to always be the same. I want your hair long, black, and I want you to use that same shampoo. It has to smell the same. Everything has to be the same. That means a lot to me, Lucy. You know that." He wasn't ordering me or anything. He was expressing what was important to him. Familiarity was everything. He wanted to remember and relive things with all his senses. I understood. That's why I always washed my hair with Dream shampoo. He loved the smell. If I didn't, he noticed it right away. I thought I had gotten away with my haircut, but I should have known better. He was too aware of the smallest things to let something as important as that go by. It was kind of him to wait so long before mentioning it. I promised I would never cut my hair that short again. He came over and held me close. Well, he was too aroused when they met. Oh, man, absence made the heart fonder, and they jumped right into it. You probably didn't notice it then. All right. So he came over and held me close. "And you have to speak French. I love that more than anything." Oh my God. Okay, I'm going to speak French in the worst Southern accent French language you've ever heard. "Pour toujours, mon chéri. Mon cœur est pour toi. Je t'aime, et Lancelot." Je t'aime beaucoup. Pour toujours, mon chéri, mon cœur est pour toi. Je t'aime, El Lancelot, je t'aime beaucoup. I got the El Lancelot. What's the rest of it? What's the rest of it mean? For always, my love, my heart is yours. I love you, El Lancelot. I love you very much. He had me teach him each word in French so he could repeat it back to me, substituting Desiree for El Lancelot. His accent was so funny it made me laugh. I put my mouth close to his, and we spoke the words together. He sighed deeply and clutched me tighter. Your hair has changed, but you still have the same beautiful body. I love to look at your body. Please let me see it again. I obeyed, lifting my knit dress over my head. Don't ever let anyone else see your body. I started to say something, but he put his finger to my lip. There is never enough time to soak in all your love, Desiree. I try, but it doesn't last. I need to be with you more often. He left late that night. Elvis preferred moving in the darkness so he wouldn't be noticed. I had an early flight to catch, and he didn't want to leave in the morning. What he really didn't want to do was wake up in the morning. He never had much use for mornings. The hotel was empty and lonely when he left. I had a horrible feeling that I wouldn't see him again. His fame and career would make it harder to hide our love. It went beyond that. I felt there was a force at work, keeping us apart. It's hard to explain, but the feeling was strong. I worried about how this colonel was using him. I warned Elvis to be wary and not to be so trusting. Maybe I was thinking only of myself. This manager would view me with the same horror as Elvis's parents, maybe even more so. Unlike Elvis, he had to know how damaging I would be to his career. If Elvis didn't see the problems I presented, his manager would waste no time explaining it. And Elvis said the colonel was close to his father. That would do it for sure. Despite the beauty of my day with Elvis, I fell into a troubled sleep. It was cold and misty the next morning. The flight home was gloomy. Seeing my children cheered me up. They were my whole life. They were all I had. Elvis called a few days before Christmas. He said he'd received his notice to go into the Army. He didn't appear to be upset. The colonel had him convinced it would help his career. I couldn't see how, but I was glad Elvis was taking it well. He said he didn't have to leave for a while because the colonel had gotten a delay so he could make another movie, King Creole. I marveled at how his manager could pull so many strings, even with the Army. Yeah, he's something. There ain't nothing that man can't do, Elvis said. I just wonder if what he's doing is right. Yeah, so he was already under contract with MGM to make King Creole. And they wanted him to be in the Army or enlist or report or whatever in January. But they were supposed to start filming in January. And Hollywood and the movie world had a lot of clout because they had already put a lot of money into making the movie. And it was enough weight to get the Army to postpone his enlisting, put it off until March. So he went to Hollywood and New Orleans and filmed King Creole, which is a great movie. And if any of you guys ever get a chance to look at it, it's probably the most dramatic movie that he played, and it is his favorite role that he ever played and his favorite movie he ever played in because it was more dramatic, which is what he wanted to do. He wanted to get into more dramatic filming, and he did a really good job. And there's some really good songs that came from it. You're looking for trouble, and you came to the right place. Boom, 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 boom. You're looking for trouble. Boom, 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 boom. Then look right into my face. That's from that movie. Great song, great song, great song. Okay, we're going to read a little bit about what the author did on his research, and then I'm going to stop because this is pretty far into it. And this was a heavy chapter, so you need to let it sink in. Think about it when you go to bed, lay in bed and think about it. This is a pretty intense chapter. So you really get to hear him talk a lot. And she remembers a lot of these conversations because she played them over and over and over and over and over again in her head, because her life was not what she wanted it to be. And when she would lay in bed at night, she would replay her conversations with him, as the psychologist told the author when he was doing his research. And so that's why she remembers a lot of his conversations word for word, which is fascinating and good for us. Okay, so the author says, Albert Goldman's investigation into the Colonel's control of Elvis, detailed in the book Elvis, is by far the most penetrating. Goldman reported that Elvis believed Colonel Parker set up the Army stint. First, a story was planted in Billboard magazine that accused the Army of preparing to give Elvis a sweet deal. At the time, the Army hadn't given a thought to drafting the singer. When the story came out, the Colonel told his boy that there was a lot of criticism from veterans groups and Elvis would have to do the right thing. According to Goldman, the reason behind this madness might have been that the Colonel was afraid Elvis had become too big for him to control, and he wanted to knock Elvis down a few pegs. Nothing like 2 years in the service to make Elvis totally dependent upon his master manager again. All right, I've got to say something about this. That's it for the research, and I don't think it's very good research, but we have to look at what he had to work with back in the 1980s. So there's been a lot more has come out since then. And Albert Goldman's book was one of the first biographies about Elvis, and there's a lot of criticism about it. So, and a lot of authors will put stuff in, and then their editors would have them add things to it. So even though they might talk to people, they want to have sensationalism, and they would add stuff to it. And this is one of the things I think he added. Elvis, the draft was, the Army did draft him. They were not thinking about it, whereas it says here that they hadn't given a thought to drafting him. He filled out his papers to be drafted when he was 16, I think, or 18, maybe 18, whenever you become of age, I guess 18. And he put the address on, and I've seen that in the book that I read, of Elvis Day by Day. It has his notice where he wrote in, and they lived on Saffron's street or avenue or something. Saffron's was a street in Memphis. After they started making too much money and had to leave the government housing in Lauderdale Courts, they moved into a place in Saffron's. And that's when he filled out that form, because he was, I believe, a rising senior. He may have already been a senior. He was turning 18 in January, so that would have been his senior year. January 18th, 1953. And he filled out the draft form, and so his form was in there just like everyone else. And when it came time, his time came, and he was really upset about it. He did not want to do it. He was afraid. He'd only been in this business for 2 years, and he was afraid he was going to lose it all. It was all going to be gone just like that. And, here he had come from poverty, and he had finally was making money, and, it was a dream, and he thought it was going to be over, that he would go away for 2 years, everyone would forget about him. And so he didn't want to go, but he was going to do the right thing, and he was able to have time, and I'm sure they prayed a lot about it. His mama was very anxious about him going. It was not during a war time period. The big war had ended in 1945 or whatever. So this was 1957. So it was not a wartime period. So, and he and his daddy kept trying to tell his mom that he wouldn't be on the front lines, that it wasn't dangerous. But she just worried, and she was a worry wart. As much of a Christian woman she was, she worried too much. And she didn't, but yet she did pray, and she believed. And so I'm sure they prayed about him going. And he was able to come to terms with it. And when it was time for him to go in March, he had his head on right, and he was ready to do it. He was just ready to do it and get it behind him. And he went with the right attitude. But the Army did offer him the opportunity to be on the entertainment service, and where he would go around to different places and perform for the troops. But he said, nope, I don't want to do that. If I'm going to be in the Army, I'm going to serve like all the other men that are being drafted. And so that's what he did. So he went and did boot camp in Texas, and then was shipped off 6 months later to Germany, and was in Germany for a year and a half. And then he came back. And so that's what I understand is the way it happened. But there are the rumors that the colonel set it up, and that they were trying to. Also, there was a lot of controversy over him because of, the older people saying, the way he was moving on stage and moving his body, and he was, the leader of the, dragging all the kids into, HWELL, or HE hockey sticks or whatever they say. And because of the way he was moving on stage, and so there was talk that the government was trying to get him out of the country. There was also the thought that if he went to serve in the Army, it would make him appear more respected by the parents. So there was also that. So I guess that's probably one of the things that they talked about with helping him to get his head on straight with that. But anyway, that's it. So I'm going to stop because this has been long enough, and I feel like I'm rambling. So anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. Okay, bye.